You are listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast, where it's all about responding with confidence to the legal, financial, and personal challenges created by a disability, unexpected illness, or aging in general. Join us weekly as elder law attorneys Barbara McGinnis and Chris Johnson, along with other members of the Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning team, talk about the tools, techniques, strategies, and services that will make the elder care journey easier for everyone involved. Get ready, because aging starts now.
Welcome to today's episode, where we're diving into an essential topic that affects millions of individuals and families: resident rights in assisted living and skilled nursing facilities. We'll break down what residents are entitled to, what protections exist, and how families can stay informed and empowered. I'm Dana Hentschel, the Outreach Coordinator here at Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning. And joining me for today's conversation is one of our Elder Care Coordinators, Miss Pati Bedwell. Welcome, Pati.
Thank you, Dana. Thanks for having me. Great topic to cover.
Wonderful. Well, to begin, can you explain a little bit about what resident rights actually means in the context of assisted living and skilled nursing facilities?
Sure. Really, moving to a facility, regardless of what the setting is, assisted living, skilled nursing, whatever, that certainly doesn't mean you lose your rights. You have the same rights you had when you lived at home. Your living situation has changed, but your rights remain unchanged.
Okay. And that holds true for both assisted living and skilled nursing.
Yeah, that really holds true for any setting. But yes, in all of our health settings, that is the way that it is. Just because you go into a facility of any type doesn't mean you give up your rights. Of course, now it's a little different because you're living in a more communal situation. So maybe sometimes how your rights are, how you use your rights, or what, that sort of thing might be different from being at home, but the rights remain the same.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It does. So, for example, what rights do residents have regarding privacy, including like medical information and personal space?
Well, medical information is very private. There are so many rules. We've all heard about HIPAA, and those rules are very much upheld in the assisted living, nursing home, homes for the aged, those types of setting. That means that people have a right to have their medical information kept privately. It's their decision as to who that information is shared with, not the facility. Now, of course, that information is shareable as you would want it to be with your doctors, your physicians, that sort of thing. But if somebody called just checking on you, the nurse obviously could say, well, she's doing well or whatever, she's in her room or whatever, but could not give any specific medical information to someone unless that resident has given express permission for that to be done.
Okay. What about like personal space, like their apartment, their room? What can they expect as far as privacy?
Well, they should expect privacy. I mean, we all want our privacy. Again, though, we are now living in a communal situation, so sometimes those things are maybe you don't have as much privacy in all the areas that you did in your home. Like, for instance, if you're in a nursing home, you have a room that you're assigned to, that's your room. You have your space in your room, and that is your private space. You should be able to have in there what makes you happy, what makes you feel comfortable, and all those sorts of things. And the staff should respect your privacy, meaning you should expect them to knock on the door before they come in. You should expect that they are going to respect your stuff and not just come in, pick your stuff up and move it, that sort of thing. Now, in an assisted living facility, people there have their own apartments. So they very much should expect that they have their privacy and that their privacy is enforced. Now, staff can come in. They do have keys. They can go into the assisted living. But the residents should know to expect that. They should always be aware of anything that might infringe upon their personal privacy. So if they want the nurse to come in and check on them or someone to check on them during the night to make sure they're okay, that's fine. They just have to be aware that that's going to happen.
Right. And I'm sure the same with housekeeping. I mean, usually that's a service that's provided in these sorts of settings. So you know that your room is going to be cleaned once or twice a week. And if there's an odd smell from food in your room, they're going to check on that.
Exactly. And that's some of the trade-off. I don't want to say trade-off like it is infringing on your rights, because it really is not. But you're moving into an assisted living or into a nursing facility. So there are some things some standards that the facility must uphold. If their job is to clean your room, then they're going to come in and clean your room. If they find moldy food, things like that, I would expect and want them to dispose of those things. But as far as moving my possessions around or rearranging my room because the housekeeper may think it looks better another way, those are things they should not do without express permission from the resident that lives there.
Mm-hmm. What about daily routines, like their meals or activities or their waking or sleeping times? I know that one of the hurdles my grandmother had to get over when she moved into an assisted living was she likes to sleep in, and she didn't want to get up at a certain time for breakfast or be made to get up at a certain time. What kind of rights do residents have about that?
Well, again, they have the same rights that they did when they were living at home. Now, what that means, like for someone like your grandmother in an assisted living facility, if she sleeps in and she misses the hot breakfast that they serve, then that's the consequence. They are not obligated to adhere to your schedule and prepare a hot meal for you at 10 o'clock in the morning because you chose to sleep in instead of coming down to breakfast. It's your right to sleep in. You should be able to sleep in as long as you want. You should be able to stay up as late as you want. But, that balance there is you can't expect the facility to change their schedule to accommodate yours.
Right. What about visitors? Can just anyone visit at any time?
Pretty much so. There are very, very strict guidelines, especially within the nursing home, on visitation. A facility can't keep someone from visiting a resident unless, is that causing some issue for the resident? Even at that point, does the resident want to see this person? A resident has the right to see and interact with whomever they choose. Now, if a family, and many situations have come up, since I've been doing this line of work, where family members just, maybe one family member doesn't want Cousin Alice over here to come and see Mom because Mom gets upset. Well, if Mom wants to see Cousin Alice, then Mom gets to see Cousin Alice. Family doesn't get to dictate who a resident can interact with. Now, the facility, if they see that the resident is distressed after a person visits, they have every right to go in and talk with that resident and see if they want any intervention. if they do, fine. A resident always has the right to say who they do not want to see. They have that right as well. If a resident doesn't want someone to come in, even if it's their son, daughter, or whatever, that's their right. I do not want to see them. That always remains their right, as well as, yes, I want to see them. I don't care that you don't like Cousin Alice. I do, so, and the facility has to provide, nursing home I'm talking about mostly, because if you're in an assisted living, you do have your own apartment. So visitors can come and go to your apartment as you wish. A lot of times they do have visiting hours, or the hours that they would prefer for people to visit. Doesn't mean you can't go outside those designated hours, but that's what they would prefer. That's also in a nursing home as well. They may not like for you to come in at 10 o'clock at night to visit with your loved one. But if that's the best time for you, or you're traveling and you just get there at that time, or, whatever, or if that resident's schedule allows them to stay up later, there is nothing that should keep you from visiting with that resident. Of course, you do have to be mindful of the other people that live in the place where you're at. If you're in a nursing home and you're sharing a room with somebody else, it's probably not a good idea to have visitors at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. If that's what you want, then you should plan to meet your visitor in a lobby area or somewhere that's not going to infringe on your roommate's ability to sleep. So making those kinds of concessions.
Mm-hmm. And what about leaving the facility, like to go shopping with a friend or out to eat with a friend or home for the holidays?
There's nothing at all that says you can't do that. People in an assisted living, they can come and go as much as they want. They can go out for holidays. They could spend, the holidays away. They could go on vacation if they wanted to, go out shopping, to restaurants, whatever they feel like they want to do and can get to do. Now, with the nursing home residents, it's mostly the same. There are a little more restrictions if you are there during a skilled stay, where Medicare is your payer source at the time, and you are there for rehab therapy services. There may be some restrictions there. Medicare may not cover 3 days for you to go home and spend a weekend, over the holidays with family. Medicare may not cover those costs. So when you're in a nursing home, you need to always check with the facility to make sure that there are no parameters that you're going to cross. But if you're a resident at a nursing home and you're a long-term resident and you're not having therapy, you can, again, come and go as you are able to. If you want to go out to eat, if you want to go home, overnight with family, you can do that. You just have to let the facility know so they can make arrangements for your visit and your time away to be successful. Meaning you have all of the supplies, all the medications, all those sort of things that you will need while you're away from the facility.
And what protections are in place, like against neglect or abuse or like retaliation if a resident raises concerns? So like if a resident feels like an aide was rude to them or kind of didn't do something properly and they reported that to management, sometimes they don't, because they're like, well, she gives me my shower and I don't want to make her mad.
Right.
What protections are in place to prevent that?
Well, there are lots of protections in that there are lots of regulations in both settings to protect residents from being neglected, from having their dignity infringed upon, and things like that. That's something, though, that is very, very hard to enforce, I guess, is the best way to say it. And a lot of people that I've talked with over the years, they've had complaints about maybe they don't like the way that the aide, maybe they're too rough, when they're bathing them or something like that. And they hesitate on saying anything to anyone because really they like this person. They enjoy their interaction. They just don't like that one little thing, and they don't want to make them angry. They don't want to be seen as a complainer. So a lot of times residents keep their complaints to themselves, or they share them with other residents, but never with anyone that could actually help to solve the problem. So it becomes, it's a very hard thing for the administration of staffs to follow up on, to be mindful of. I mean, I believe they are very mindful of it, but to be on the lookout for things. How would you know, unless a resident told you that a staff member was more rough than they would need to be?
Right.
You don't know that unless that information is shared with you. And I have always tried to encourage residents and family members to find someone in that facility they feel they can trust and they feel like they can share information with. To let the staff know what that concern is so they can go about, figuring out how to solve it. And maybe, if someone is a little rough, if we're going to stay with that example, the right people get that. They're going to maybe do in-services, not just to that one staff member, but that's a good lesson, or that's a good reminder for all staff members, how to treat residents, how to make sure that you're not being too rough with a resident, because, when you're 20 years old, you don't realize what it feels like to be 90 or to be 85, 75 years old, and that you don't move as fast. Your muscles aren't as free from pain as they are when you're, 20 years old.
Right. So, what type of financial rights do residents have, like regarding billing transparency, personal funds, or even the admission agreements?
Well, they have the right to know where their money is being spent. They have a right to always know what they are responsible for financially. When they're admitted, and this is regardless of what type of setting you're being admitted to, you need to be told up front what the expectations are from you financially, what you're going to be responsible for, and what that covers. You've paid X number of dollars per month for this setting. These are the services you can expect. So everybody knows from the day you walk into a facility what everybody's obligations are. You're going to take care of my meals. I'm going to provide my soap, shampoos, my things like that, just so everyone knows. Now, in an assisted living, the residents and their families are responsible for their financial standings. In a nursing home, the nursing home can keep a financial account for you, but they have to be very careful in how they are careful in that you always know where your money is, what it's being spent on, and what your balance is. So if you have an account at a nursing home and you're wanting to go out to Walmart, for instance, for one of the activities or something like that, you should go to that, your business office and say, hey, I need $75 today. Get that $75 and a receipt, and that will be followed up with a balance statement on what you have left. Now, those statements will come to you on a regular basis, just like a regular bank statement does. If they don't, then you should find out why. So I don't know if that answered that as well as you'd like, but
Oh, I think that works. And I think that some facilities do that more than others. I think some might have you manage your own pocket money
yeah.
policy.
Right. It adds a lot more responsibility to the facility to keep up with residents' funds as well. That's something I know personally I would not want to be responsible for, but often there are residents that do need that level of assistance. So there is someone there at a nursing home that can provide that.
So if you do think that maybe your rights have been stepped on, is there someone that you can turn to? I mean, maybe you've gone to the executive director and you've gone up the proper chain of command in the facility, but that has not yielded results. I mean, is there another person you can go to?
Yeah, there is the long-term care district ombudsman group. They are the resident rights advocacy program. You will find their posters in every licensed medical facility, long-term care facility, nursing home, assisted living, and also in the homes for the aged in the state of Tennessee. That group, they will come in. Their whole directive is just to help residents make sure that their rights are being respected and upheld. So they come in, they would come to you, you'd call them, tell them what your issue is. They would come with you, listen to what your complaint is. And then they go out and they talk to other residents in that same facility to see, if it's a widespread issue or if it's just, a one-off. And then they work with the facility to solve whatever the issue might be. So for people that have gone through the proper channels at the facility, and to me, that would mean starting with your social worker, that position, whatever that position is called in your facility, start with that person. If that doesn't work, then go maybe to the executive director or the administrator. If that still doesn't work, then I would reach out to the ombudsman. Of course, now if you're one of our life care plan clients, you can call your elder care coordinator and they will help you with that as well.
Okay. So, Pati, we are running long today, so much to talk about, but what is the one thing that you want listeners to remember about resident rights?
Well, let's see. One thing. I guess really people need to understand that they have rights. They have the same rights that they had before they went into the facility. And probably the one right, I think, is more misunderstood than any others, is we all, residents included, have the right to make bad decisions. That's not something that we all want, but we have to respect, we as providers, caregivers, that we have to understand and respect residents' rights. And that means they don't always have to agree with us. So residents have the right to disagree as well.
That's right. So if a diabetic wants a piece of pie and they know the consequences of that, they can do that.
Yes. Yes. Now the facility is going to uphold their obligation of saying, really, you shouldn't have this. You realize this is not good for you. But if that resident is adamant, then yeah. Because if you were living at home, that's how I always like to frame it in my mind. If this person was living at home, would they have the right to do this or not? And if they have the right to do it at home, then they should have the right to do it in an assisted living or a nursing home.
That's right. Well, this has been very helpful, Patti. Great content. And that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you for joining us. And I hope today's discussion leaves you better equipped to ensure that every resident receives the respect and care they deserve. Please like and share this episode with others. Johnson McGinnis Elder Care Law and Estate Planning is a life care planning law firm helping families navigate the healthcare maze and financial questions that can arise from aging and or disability. Join us next week for another episode of Aging Starts Now.
Thank you for listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast. For more information about today's show, visit tn-elderlaw.com, click on the Free Resources tab, and then click on Aging Starts Now. You'll find the show notes there. And while you're at it, why not check out all the free resources available at tn-elderlaw.com. Document downloads, the Johnson McGinnis blog, educational videos, informative articles, helpful links, a TV show, and more. It's all there, free for the taking. If you enjoy listening to the Aging Starts Now podcast, please subscribe, rate the show, or leave us a review. It's easy to do on whatever app you use to listen. We would love your feedback on the show. Aging Starts Now. We'll be back next week with more candid discussions about the challenges created by aging, disability, and unexpected illness.